passages I find interesting in War and Peace, part 46. This one is against the historians again, and also a shot at Napoleon. Again, he is trying to dismantle the whole idea that Napoleon was ever a genius or ever a great man at all. And lastly, the final departure of the great emperor, it's talking about Napoleon, from his heroic army is represented by the historians as something great, a stroke of genius. Even the final act of running away, which in homely language would be described as the lowest depth of baseness, such as every child is taught to feel ashamed of, even that act finds justification in the language of the historians. When it is impossible to stretch the elastic thread of historical argument further, when an action is plainly opposed to what all humanity is agreed in calling right and justice, the historians take refuge in the conception of greatness. Greatness would appear to exclude all possibility of applying standards of right and wrong. For the great man, nothing is wrong. There is no atrocity which could be made a ground for blaming a great man. C'est grand, cry the historians, and at that word good and bad have ceased to be, and there are only grand and not grand. Grand is equivalent to good and not grand to bad. To be grand is to their notions the characteristic of certain exceptional creatures called by them heroes. And Napoleon, wrapping himself in his warm fur cloak and hurrying home away from men who were not only his comrades, but, in his belief, brought there by his doing, feels que c'est grand, and his soul is content. So this is one of Tolstoy's biggest criticisms against Napoleon, in that in his retreat out of Moscow, while he goes comfortably and has warm clothes and, the best food, etc., he has a fur coat, his soldiers have nothing. They don't have boots, they have no jackets, definitely not fur clothes. They're freezing to death, they're starving to death. And I think he puts the numbers in there. So Napoleon had 76,000 troops. 5,000 die in battle. The rest die on their way out of Moscow in this retreat where he abandons them completely. This is also really interesting if you're into Russian literature, because this argument that a grand man can do no wrong, no matter how many people he kills, is actually the basis for Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment.